Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys out loud from a storybook app called Magium. It is free on both iOS and Android, so if anyone is interested, it's really good, and there's so many different paths that you could take, so I highly recommend it. Last we left off was at the beginning of chapter 10. Yeah, I'm really tired, so I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to read for very long, but I want to get in the habit of reading this more than I have been because it's really cool, and I feel like it's a really relaxing way to end my streams. But this stream has been going on for almost 5.5 hours, so we'll see how this goes. Okay. I just switched to a new emulator, which is so much better, but I don't know why it always starts out so much larger than the other one does. This is it's a choose your own adventure, so you're able to pick a lot of different paths. It's not horror, but it is like fantasy adventure, and it's really good. So if you want to, you're starting in the middle from chapter 10, but since you don't know the beginning, it is really good. So it's up to you if you decide to stick around or not, but it's really good. But no ghost stories. And I also didn't read the Ghost Bump book, so I am not sure. Okay. Also, Kasora, I don't know if you're still here because what you were asking for isn't here, but thank you for the first time chat. Thank you for popping in. As you're reading, let's see if it's if this is one. There will be choices of how the main character Barry can react to different situations. There's also stats that you enter throughout the game, so those will also make the paths different. Like if you end up in a combat situation and you decide to try and fight when you haven't invested stat points in strength, you can die or have to start over, or maybe you just won't be able to pass the checkpoint and get there. For ancient languages, if you don't put stats in ancient languages, there's a chance you won't be able to read something or communicate with someone. So you just won't get that information, and that can affect the storyline later on when it would be useful to have that information. I haven't seen or read that one either. But maybe. Wait, what I did just didn't... Yeah, okay, that didn't change anything. Okay, cool. Oh, and where we're starting, a banshee type person who a lot of the members do not trust betrayed them and got them locked up in a orc dungeon. But my character suspects that it was actually a secret plan to get the orc's trust and then break us out later, and then she did, but now everyone's mad and still doesn't trust her. And she said some mean things. Is that all? Rose asks with an uncharacteristically furious expression on her face while a tear is forming in one of her eyes. Is that all you're going to say after what you did to us? I already told you. Luna said. I had to keep the truth from you in order to make sure that your reactions were genuine. It was all necessary for carrying out our plan. Oh yeah? Rose asks. And what about all those mean things you said before we got teleported to our cell? When you said I was too trusting for my own good and that I was a fool for not having listened to Darren. Was all of that necessary too? As Rose finished asking her question, I could see Luna's cold expression change for a brief moment. In that one moment, she almost seemed human. No, Luna says after a short pause, it was not. I only said all of that because I wanted to get back at you for not letting me rest the other night. I overreacted. I apologize. The fury in Rose's eyes disappeared upon hearing Luna's words. She looked a bit confused. I don't think she was expecting such an honest apology. Well, as long as you won't do it again, Rose says. Araka starts laughing hysterically. Luna apologizing? She says. Quick, find a place to hide. Barricade yourself. The world as we know it may well be coming to an end. I told you to be quiet, Luna says. Hey, if you want to shut me up, you can just close the amulet like you always do, Araka says. Oh, wait. If you do that, you'll lose your precious map that we were spending all those hours in the library. To put together. I guess you'll just have to put up with me for a while longer then. I hadn't really paid much attention to the semi-transparent magical hologram floating in front of Luna until Araka mentioned it. But now I realize that it is in fact a miniature version of the ogre stronghold. Not only that, but there were also colored dots inside that were continuously moving. I can only assume that the moving dots represented the ogre patrols from the stronghold, and that the six dots standing in place on the upper level of the left wall must represent our own group. That's amazing, Kate says. This entire detailed hologram is being maintained by Araka? Yes, Luna says. We spent a few hours in the library documenting the stronghold's layout in order to recreate it as accurately as possible. Araka's magical sense is powerful enough that she can easily detect all living creatures in our area, even if their auras are being masked by that pesky shaman spell that also grants invisibility, so she can just display them as dots on the map for all of us to see. With this much information in our hands, the ogres could not surprise us, so we've encountered no resistance while we cleaned out this entire floor and hid the bodies. Why do the dots have different colors, or can't Araka maintain the hologram if you close the amulet? Go with this one. I'm doing a smart good berry run through, so if it's like a smart or good decision, I will probably just make it, but if it's more of a personality situation, I will normally ask, if there's anyone conscious, I'll ask their opinions. Why do the dots have different colors? The blue dots are mages, the red dots are the warriors, the green dot is the shaman, and the purple dot is the captain. She can tell a difference, Kate asks. Yes, Luna says. If your magical sense is good enough, you can make the distinction quite easily based on their level of magical power or even their unique aura signatures. Right now, we need to make it all the way to the lowest level of the main building where their treasury is being located. Hold on, Hadrick says. Before we get going, I think there's still one more issue that needs to be cleared up. The shaman called you Aluna of the Sacred Woods Massacre earlier, and he said that you killed hundreds of animals without mercy. What was that all about? Oh, I can answer this question for her, Araka says. Araka, I swear, if you don't shut up, Aluna says. Araka says, you'll what? Aluna doesn't say anything. That's what I thought, Araka says. So anyway, what I was saying, in order to better understand the events of the Sacred Woods Massacre, I need to tell you a little story first. It is a story about 3 young banshees that I decided to take under my wing out of the kindness of my heart a few hundred years ago. Their names were Sidura, Unuri, and Aluna. Wait, you used to be Aluna's guardian? Hadrick asks. No, I used to be her mentor, Araka says. I was the one being she looked up to the most. I remember the 3 of them once saying they wanted to be like me when they grew up. That was before they knew who I really was, of course. I spent years of my life teaching them everything I knew. I taught them how to defend themselves from the banshee hunters and white mages. I taught them how to tell when their bodies were starting to reject them so they could start looking for new hosts in good time. In other words, I taught them how to survive. That was awfully nice of you, Kate says, with a frigid tone in her voice. I know, right? Araka says. It was all a sham, of course. To tell you the truth, I was starting to get a little bored with the amount of suffering I could bring to the world while trapped in weak animal bodies. So this time, I decided to try making up. So this time, I decided to try something a little different. I spent years of my life making myself into this sort of motherly figure for the 3 young banshees, all in order to make it more painful for them when I inevitably betrayed them. But as time passed, my original perspective began to change. As I got to know the 3 banshees better, I started to grow fond of Aluna. She was my star pupil, after all, and she reminded me a bit of myself when I was her age. So instead of simply having her killed along with the others, I decided to instead shape her in my own image. Araka, that is enough, Luna says. But of course, in order to shape her into my own image, I needed to utterly destroy her first. Araka continues, ignoring Aluna. So I started to teach her even more than I taught the others. I made sure that she knew all kinds of obscure techniques and that she could control her water element to perfection. So when the time came, I led them all into one of the sacred woods. It was easy to get them to follow me. They trusted me with their lives, and they didn't know that I was taking them into forbidden territory. Poor Inari and Sidara were no match for the valiant guardians of the forest, and Aluna was not strong enough to fight all of the animals by herself while also protecting her friends. Araka, I am warning you, Aluna says. Oh, and Aluna was simply adorable, Araka says. Did I tell you? Back then, she absolutely refused to kill other living creatures unless she had no other choice. She would be depressed for days after changing hosts because she'd been forced to end someone's life without their consent. Needless to say, even in a dire situation such as this, Aluna still refused to kill the animals and simply incapacitated them. I know this because I was watching the whole thing from above while laughing continuously. They didn't understand what I was doing at first. They kept calling to me, begging to me to save them like I always did. They saw all of the events unfold before their eyes, but their minds simply could not comprehend them. It was only when Unara and Sidara got impaled that the cold, hard reality finally hit Aluna in the face. As Araka speaks, I can feel Aluna's aura starting to fluctuate violently. This is the first time I've ever seen her exhibit such strong emotions about something. Usually, the flow of her aura is almost indiscernible from that of the air around her. She kept shouting at the animals to let her pass, Araka says. She kept telling them to get out of her way, but they wouldn't listen. And so, in a fit of rage, Aluna exterminated every single one of those guardians, leaving no survivors. And then she hurried over to her friend's side, grabbing their lifeless bodies and shaking them desperately as if she were expecting them to suddenly come back to life. "Please," she said, "don't leave me," she said. I don't want to be alone." Aluna closed the amulet and gripped it firmly in her fist. I could see her hand shaking as she held onto the amulet. I think I could almost hear a small crack coming from it. Just as Araka warned her, the hologram of the fort disappeared almost as soon as she closed the locket. "Bring it back," Aluna says curtly, as she opens the amulet again. Araka says. "Bring what back? Oh, did you mean the hologram? The hologram's gone. Didn't you see it go poof? I'll need hours to recreate it again. You should have listened to me when you had the chance, but no. You had to be your old, stubborn self again, and I said bring it back," Aluna shouts to her. A brief pause followed Aluna's words, during which nobody spoke a word. "All right, fine," Araka says, after a while, and she conjures back the miniature ogre fort with all of its details still intact. "I swear, you have absolutely no sense of humor. I don't know how that girl puts up with you." Aluna ignores Araka, and she turns to Hadric. "I trust that Araka's explanation about the Sacred Woods massacre will suffice?" she asks him with a dark look on her face. Or would you perhaps like to hear more details?" No," Hadric says. "I think I'm good, thanks." Aluna then turns around and starts leading us to the lower levels as we all follow her in silence. Thanks to Araka's map, we were able to successfully avoid most of the guards as we made our way towards the treasure room. The ones that we couldn't avoid were quickly and silently dispatched by Aluna. Her way of doing things was completely opposite to Flower's. She was cold and calculated, and she would use the girl's athletic prowess to her advantage when going in for the kill. Every time she had to take out an ogre guard, she'd climb one of the walls, position herself above him, and then hang from the ceiling to deliver the finishing blow. It took us less than half an hour to reach the treasure room, situated at the lowest level of the stronghold's main building. There were only 2 guards at the entrance who were easily dealt with. However, even if we made sure to hide all of the bodies on our way here, it's likely only a matter of time before the ogre patrol realizes something is wrong and raises the alarm. We're going to need to move fast and get out of here before that happens. Upon entering the ogre's treasury, I could see that it was filled with mountains upon mountains of gold, as well as dozens of coffers which had all manner of jewels and fineries inside of them. If only I had my enchanted backpack with me now, I would have filled it to the brim with treasures. Still, there's plenty of room in my pockets for me to stash a few of these small expensive gems. The diamonds in particular should fetch a hefty sum in any respectable market. After all, when will I get another chance like this? Take the gems, don't touch anything. So I feel like the smart overweighs the good here, so I'm going to take the gems. I open one of the coffers and start filling my pockets with diamonds and rubies. Seriously, Barry? Darren says. We came here to get the chalice, not rob the ogres blind. This whole room is full of treasure, I tell him. A few missing gems here and there aren't going to make much of a difference. After I'm done with the gems, I join the others, who are now standing in front of a marble pedestal, on top of which lies the chalice we've come here to retrieve. Don't make any loud noises, Luna tells us in a low voice. The ogre captain and his troops are standing right beyond the wall from behind the chalice. Which one's the ogre captain? Hadrick asks as he stares at the fort hologram. The purple dot, Luna says. The red dots scattered all around him are his troops. I should have asked the other question. How come the room they're in isn't marked on the map? Kate asks. It's because it didn't appear in any of the building plans that we studied in the library, Luna says. It's probably a hidden room that they use for all of their top secret meetings. The way they place the chalice on top of the pedestal like that just screams trap to me, Darren says. Was there any documentation regarding the traps they're using to defend this room? Unfortunately, no, Luna says, and I'm not sensing any magic around it either. If there are traps, they're going to be similar in nature to those from the ruins. Can we even be sure that we've got the right chalice? Hadrick says. I mean, it looks like it, but they could have easily made a fake one and placed it in plain sight to throw us off course. There's an easy way to test its authenticity, Luna says as she uses her water magic to fill the chalice with water. After a few seconds, the water inside it starts to radiate magic, and then it begins to shine brightly as if there was a small sun floating right above it. That settles it, Luna says. This is the chalice we are looking for. She then grabs it off the pedestal and empties it of water as we look all around us to see if any traps get activated. Huh, Hadrick says. I guess we overestimated the ogres a bit when we assumed they were smart enough to actually come up with The dwarf doesn't get to finish his sentence as the floor below us quickly starts to rotate along with us and the walls behind the pedestal. 2 seconds later, we find ourselves standing in a room full of ogres, with the captain of the stronghold grinning at us maliciously. I suspected Banshee from start, the captain says in his broken common. I told great shaman he make mistake for trusting Banshee, but shaman no listen. I knew you come here sooner or later with your friends to steal treasure. So I wait for you in secret ambush room. These are all my finest warrior, and they all thirst for blood. No banshee or human leave this place alive tonight. Uraka starts laughing. Is that a fact, fatso? She says. Darren wastes no time and he rushes towards the captain, but the ogre was ready for him, and he hit him with his club as soon as he got within range. Darren instinctively placed a shield between him and the ogre's weapon, but the force behind the hit was so great that it sent him flying into a nearby wall. Hadric is the next one who dashes towards the captain, and the ogre hits him with his club as well. The dwarf stops the weapon by putting his hands above his head, and the floor below them is beginning to crumble from the impact of the club's strike. While the two of them duel, Aluna starts to apply some pressure to the ogres by using her water whips, while doing cartwheels all over the place in order to avoid getting hit by their clubs. "Not bad for puny dwarf," the captain says, "but let me ask something. Does dwarf know what lies beneath stronghold floor?" "Yeah, it's called a hill," Hadric says. "They're kinda like mountains, only smaller. I can draw you a picture to make it easier to understand if you want." That is only partly correct, dwarf," the Hadric says with a wicked grin. "It's true that there is hill below us, but inside this hill there is abandoned mines which was used by the goblins before us. The wood and scaffolding leading down must be rotting by now. The two of us are standing right above cave wall. But I can't say the same about your friends. There is 300 foot drop until the floor of mines. Can your friends be flying, dwarf?" They have been sent on a mission by, so they're wearing collars right now that make it so they can't use magic, everyone but Aluna. And they've been sent to retrieve a magic golden chalice that the orcs stole from the magic animal kingdom that treats animal-specific diseases and stuff. So a lot of the animals have died since it was stolen. And it doesn't seem like the orcs actually use it for anything. But regardless, if they don't get the chalice, the collars they're wearing will kill them within 5 days. It's their punishment for trespassing. Yeah, you're welcome to ask questions, though. I highly recommend downloading it and playing it for yourself. It's a really good story, and I have a lot of respect for the author. And it's still coming out. He's got 5 books planned, and he is about to finish the last chapter of book 3. The captain then roars loudly, and all of his troops fall back towards the middle of the room. Aluna takes advantage of this, and she uses her water whip to behead them all in a single motion. "Over here," she says as she waves to us from the middle of the ogre corpses. "This must be one of the safe areas. Quick!" The ogre captain grins widely upon hearing Aluna's words. He kicks Hadric out of his way and readies to his club to smash the floor from underneath us. Rush over to Aluna's position. There's no time to waste. Or tell Rose and Kate that we need to maintain our position. I will save here. Would you like to pick which one you think is better? Any of the conscious people? Also, if you don't want to play it yourself and want to hear the read through up until now, all of it is posted on my YouTube channel. Rush over to Luna's position. There is no time to waste. Premonition check, failed, level 2. Observation check, successful, level 2. As Kate, Rose, and I hurry to reach Luna's position, the ogre captain smashes his club to the ground, and the floor begins to shatter. I suddenly notice the cracks from the floor are spreading throughout the entire middle area of the room, but not in the area that we just left. Turn back, I tell Kate and Rose. Look at the floor. This area is not safe. Turn back now. The three of us make a run for it, and we manage to get back to our original position right in the nick of time. Luna, who wasn't completely convinced, waited until the very last moment, then she jumped onto a wall, using it to propel herself to our position before the floor crumbled beneath her feet. Well, what do you know? She says. You were actually right. Darren! Rose shouts while looking down inside the chasm that had formed in the middle of the room. Looking inside the pit, I see that Darren is hanging from a wooden beam which is beginning to crack under his weight. I had completely forgotten that he got thrown into a wall at the beginning of the fight. He must have still been in a dazed state when the floor started crumbling. As I look below to see if there are any footholds I could use to get to him, I realize that even if I manage to somehow reach his position, there's just no way I could climb back up. The wooden scaffolding is practically unusable at this point. All that's left of it are some support pillars and a few beams here and there that look like they could break any second. Do you want to just keep going, or would you like to go back and make a different decision? Whoever's conscious. You don't have to. I can just keep going. Most of the time, everyone passes out, like, immediately. So, it is supposed to be interactive, but most people just fall asleep, because I guess my voice has that effect. I'll just keep going then. Okay. The wooden scaffolding is practically unusable at this point. All that's left of it are some support pillars and a... Alright. If you guys don't want to make decisions, I normally look at the time, and if after 2 minutes no one's responded, I'll just keep going. Actually, it's more like 1 minute. Stay where you are, Darren shouts at us. Whatever you do, don't come down here. Don't worry, I have everything under control. He's lying. At most, he's got half a minute before that beam breaks under his weight, and he has no way of climbing back up. He must be trying to protect us. You bastard, Hadrick shouts at the ogre captain as he clashes with him once again. You were the one who told the ogres that the middle of the room was a safe area, weren't you? Were those soldiers' lives worth nothing to you? Ha! Captain says. Those weren't my finest warriors. They were just cannon fodder. All of them replaceable. I alone strong enough to deal with the lot of you. Look below. One of your friends already at end of his rope. The rest of you are going to follow him soon." I can't do a Irish accent, or Irish or Scottish, but he's supposed to have something close to that. And they swear a lot. The beam that Darren is holding onto cracks loudly. He doesn't have much time left. Completely out of the blue, Aluna jumps past us and into the pit. She uses one of the wooden pillars to propel herself back towards the cave wall, which she then uses to push herself further down into the pit and back towards the wooden pillar. She jumps back and forth between the pillar and the wall a few times until she finally reaches Darren's level. She then grabs the cave wall with her left hand and she extends her right hand towards Darren. "Healer, grab my hand," Aluna says. "Like hell I will," Darren says. The wooden beam cracks again. This time it looks like it's about to break. "Healer, there's no time. Grab my damn hand." Darren looks at her hesitantly for a few seconds, but he doesn't get the time to think on it any further because the wooden beam finally cracks under his weight and he starts falling into the chasm. Aluna pushes herself into the wall with all of her strength and jumps towards Darren, grabbing him with her right hand. As soon as the two of them fall into the pit, they start shining brightly, and right before they reach the ground, they disappear and then reappear on the floor in front of us, safe and sound. "No!" The ogre captain shouts as he tries to smash Hadrick with his club again. "What's the matter?" Hadrick asks him as he blocks his strike yet again. Didn't you say that you'd easily deal with the lot of us by yourself? You should be glad that you've been granted the opportunity to finish us all with your own hands." "Aluna, can't you help him?" Rose asks. "I don't know how much longer Hadrick can keep this up." The ogre is wearing anti-magic armor from head to toe, Luna says. "This means that I can't make my water sharp against him, so my whips and arrows are out of the question. Normally I'd use one of my whips to pull him into the chasm, but he's just too big and heavy for me to move that amount of magical energy, or to move with the amount of magical energy I have at my disposal. My stronger spells would probably penetrate his defenses, but they aren't designed to hit a single target, so I'd risk hitting the dwarf along with the ogre captain if I use them." "There must be something we can do," Rose says. Hey, dwarf," Araka shouts loudly. "Remember how I told you that the ogre's weak spot is at the base of their necks? It's time for you to put that secret technique I taught you to good use." Hadrick laughs. "Aye," he says, grinning widely. "I suppose it is time for me to stop fooling around." The ogre captain suddenly stops attacking Hadrick and he uses his club to guard his neck. Hadrick focuses all of his aura in his right fist and he punches a hole through the ogre's chest armor, making the captain fall to his knees, drop his club, and start coughing up blood. Hadrick seizes the opportunity to grab the ogre's club and throw it inside the chasm. "Why?" the ogre asks as he coughs up more blood. "Why did go for chest instead of neck? Wasn't secret technique supposed to aim for weak point?" Hadrick and Araka both start laughing simultaneously. "There was no secret technique, you moron," Araka says. "I only said that to make you panic and focus all of your defense on a single point." "I guess it only took the two of us to defeat you after all," Hadrick says, grinning. "Maybe you should have brought some real soldiers with you, instead of small fries." "This not over yet, dwarf," the ogre says as he coughs up some more. as he coughs some more. I'm going to crush your puny head and... Hadrick doesn't let the ogre finish his threat, and he crushes his head between his hands. As the ogre's lifeless body drops to the ground, the dwarf jumps over to our side of the room and grins at Araka. That wasn't half bad for a spirit of joy and laughter, he tells her. You've certainly earned your quota for the day, for making me laugh to my heart's content. Well, seriously now, Eureka says, I couldn't let them kill the only person in this entire group who laughs at my jokes. You can buy me a beer when I get out of this amulet. I'm not sure how that's gonna work, though, since I'll probably kill you all within seconds of escaping. I'm not good at fake laughter. Have you seriously gone out of your mind, Banshee? Darren shouts furiously all of a sudden. Who, me? Uraka asks. Not you. Darren says, the other Banshee. Why? Because I teleported you out of the pit? Aluna says. You're not seriously going to start claiming that you could have gotten yourself out of there by yourself, are you? Of course not, Darren says. I was about to die, and then you saved me. Why would you save me? My death would have benefited you in every way, and no one could have blamed you for it if you left me to die. What could you possibly have hoped to achieve from this? I see no reason to justify my actions to you, Aluna says. Figure it out yourself. Darren's face is so red with anger that he looks like he might explode any second. We have no time for this, Kate says. Look at the map. All of the ogres that were sleeping are waking. Irish Pooh Hair, welcome in. Thank you for joining. You've been here before. You know what's happening. Welcome in. I hope you had a really good stream. I was lurking on you. I am. Thank you for asking. Alright, I'm gonna keep going. We've got no time for this. Kate says. Look at the map. All of the ogres that were sleeping are waking up and taking their stations. The others are frantically patrolling the halls as if they were looking for something. They must have discovered one of the dead bodies and raised the alarm. The shaman has just left his quarters and he's now assembling a team to follow him. That means we won't be able to sneak out of the fort through the front gate anymore, Aluna says. I don't think it's a good idea to fight all of these ogres head on. Luckily for us, the room we are in right now isn't marked on any of the building plans, so most patrols aren't very likely to come searching for us here. Our best bet is to descend into the caverns below us, and then follow the underground tunnels until we reach the exit at the base of the hill. How do you know that the caverns below us won't lead to a dead end? Or how are we going to get all the way down there with the scaffolding broken? If there's anyone conscious that would like to make a decision, now's your chance. I'm gonna give you guys like a minute and a half so that it's not an awkward pause. And thank you, Irish Pooh Hair. I'm really glad that you enjoyed this as much as you do. This one? Okay, we could do that one. How are we going to get all the way down there with the scaffolding broken? While I was falling earlier, I saw that there was another scaffolding right below the room beyond the wall on our right, Hadrick says. It appeared to be in good condition, so there should be no problem in climbing all the way down to the bottom of the mines. Can't you just attack your teleportation skill? Can't you just cast your teleportation spell from earlier? Hadrick asks. You know, the one you used to rescue Darren from the pit? Now I can only cast that spell once a day, Aluna says. It's the same for the golden cage spell I used to trap you when we entered the fort. That's why I didn't use it on those ogres while I was fighting them. So you could have still cast the teleportation spell now, if not for me? Darren says. Yes, but... Marshming, thank you so much for the follow. Much appreciated. Oh, subscription. Thank you so much for the subscription. Much appreciated. I'm glad you like this as much as you do. Yes, but the spell only allows me to teleport one way. Yes, but the spell only allows me to teleport one other person with me, so it wouldn't have been much use to us here, Luna says. Plus, it has very limited range, so it's not like I can use it for travel either. I rarely get the chance to use that spell. I rarely get the chance to use that spell, to be honest. Marshming, thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm really bad at showing appreciation, but I really appreciate you. Thank you. Yeah, sorry. I'm still new at this. I've only been affiliated for like 2 or 3 months, but I appreciate you. Thank you. I rarely get the chance to use that spell, to be honest. How can we be sure that the underground mines won't just lead us to a dead end? Kate asks. We found a pretty detailed map of the tunnels in the ogre's library, Luna says. Araka, do you think you can add it to the map of the fort? Yeah, give me a second, Araka says. A few moments later, a new level gets added to the fort's hologram, showing us the layout of the underground tunnels in detail. The cavern appears indeed to have an exit, but there are several ogre mages stationed right in front of it. Oh, actually, I have a thing. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah. In front of it. There are guards at the exit, Aluna says. Good. That means that the tunnels are still being used to a certain extent. So there should be no cave-ins blocking our path. All right then, Hadrick says. I'm gonna go smash through the wall so we can get to the other room. After Hadrick destroys the wall, we see that the floor in the middle of the adjacent room had also crumbled after the ogre's smash. The cave wall from our side of the pit and the one on the opposite side seem to extend all the way to the end of the cave wall from our side of the pit and the one on the opposite side seem to extend all the way to the end of the other room, and probably beyond it as well. Just as Aluna said, the scaffolding below the other room seems to be mostly intact, and it shouldn't be too risky to climb down the wooden ladders until we reach the bottom. Let's get going, Darren says, before the ogres find this room or the shaman tells them about it. It took us a few minutes to climb down all of the ladders, but there were no incidents, and we all arrived safely at the bottom of the mines. The only source of light that we have at the moment is Araka's hologram, but it's shining brighter than a torch, and the map of the tunnels is very exact, so there's no danger of us getting lost. I think one of the ogre mages that were accompanying the shaman just teleported near the ones guarding the tunnel exit, Kate says. I saw one of the blue dots disappearing from above and another one appearing below. He was probably sent as a messenger to tell the other ogres to be on their guard, Aluna says. Yeah, they're turning invisible as we speak, Araka says. A lot of good that'll do them. But won't it be hard to fight them, even with the map, while they're invisible? Rose asks. The invisibility spell that they are using cannot be maintained during combat, Aluna says. They're only using it for the element of surprise. They'll be forced to reveal themselves once the fight begins. Araka's right. This spell will do them no good whatsoever. As we get closer to the exit, we see that the ogres in the fort are starting to flock towards the secret room, and some of them have already reached the scaffolding. The shaman's group seems to be heading that way as well. Damn it, Hadrick says. The shaman must have tipped them off about the secret room. If we don't pick up our pace, we'll end up getting surrounded. Wait, don't move, Araka says. Something's wrong. I can feel it. Give me a minute. We don't have a minute, Darren says. The shaman and his ogres are breathing down our necks. Why would there be something wrong? I don't know yet, Araka says. That's why I said I need a minute. Maybe there are traps ahead of us? Rose asks. I doubt it, Hadrick says, given that there are guards stationed at the exit. I'm guessing that these tunnels are still being used as a potential escape route in case the fort is under siege. I don't see why they would want to risk running into their own traps while they're in a hurry to abandon the stronghold. Those guards should be enough to keep any unwanted outsiders away from the tunnels. Yeah, Darren says. And there was no way they wouldn't... Yeah, Darren says. And there was no way they would have had enough time to set up a trap in the few minutes they had at their disposal since they've been announced of our escape. The only kind of trap they might have placed is a magical one, but those can be easily detected by anyone with a decent magical sense. Some of the ogres are already halfway down the scaffolding, Kate says. We don't have much time. So I will save here. We could at least wait until the ogres reach the cave floor, or screw Araka, we can't afford to waste any more time. If anyone would like to help me make a decision, now's your chance. I'll give you guys like a minute and a half. Okay. We could at least wait until the ogres reach the cave floor. They'll still need another 5 minutes to catch up to us after that, so we'll have plenty of time left to finish off the guards and exit the tunnels. Fine, Darren says, but if she doesn't have an answer until then, we're making a run for it. I've got it, Eureka says after a while. There's a very powerful magical explosion trap some 200 feet ahead of her position. Keep going. I'll tell you when to stop. What are you talking about? Darren says as we all start walking forward. I'm not sensing any traps. That's because it's really well hidden, Eureka says. I can barely sense any magic coming from it, but it's there. Here, I'll highlight the area so you know where it is. Soon after she's done talking, a small area in front of us gets covered in blue light. When we get closer, Darren starts waving his sword in the air as if he were trying to catch the light with it. Well, I'll be damned. Darren says, "Stand back, I'm going to disarm it." He then starts slicing through the air in a triangular motion a few times in a row. Suddenly, we hear a loud popping noise, and then there's smoke coming out of nowhere. The smoke soon disappears, and Araka's blue light fades along with it. I think that should about cover it, Darren says. Yeah, the trap's gone, Araka says. Only the ogres are left. Give me a sec, I'll highlight them too. Enough, we hear the shaman's voice, and soon he materializes out of thin air along with 5 ogre mages accompanying him. I don't know how you were able to see through my trap and through my invisibility spell, but now I know why you've been able to avoid all of the patrols on your way to the treasure room. Oh, don't be so modest, shaman, Eureka says as she changes the blue dot corresponding to the shaman into a green color. You must have had at least some idea what was happening, otherwise you wouldn't have purposely taken the magical signature of one of your troops when you came down here in order to trick my magical sense. What's that decoy that you left behind with your own magical signature, by the way? A clone? No, the shaman says. It's one of my followers holding an artifact that copies my aura. Fascinating, Araka says as she changes the original green dot's color into blue. How did you find out where we were? Aluna says. The captain and I had a telepathic link, which was meant to warn me once he left the realm of the living, the shaman says. You're going to pay for this, you little traitor. My followers are going to turn you all into ashes. He then raises his staff in the air, and the 5 other ogres step in front of him, casting fireballs in unison at us. He and Hadric and Darren both step in front as well in order to form our first line of defense. The dwarf focuses his aura in his fist, and he sends 2 of the fireballs back at the ogres. Darren places his sword in front of him, absorbing the other 3 fireballs within it. He then slashes his flaming sword towards the ogres and sends a powerful fire beam at them, which burns them into a crisp. You've done it now, the shaman says with a dark look in his eyes as he looks at the ashes of his 5 followers. I didn't plan to use this on you, but you leave me no choice. He then smacks his staff into the ground, and the whole room gets filled with a thick gray fog. As soon as the fog clears a bit, I realize we are no longer standing in the middle of a cavern, but on an open plain, and it appears to be snowing? My eyes are not deceiving me. It really is snowing. There's a thick layer of snow on the ground, and the trees I see in the distance are all covered in snow as well. Could this be an illusion? Damn it, Ureka says. I completely lost track of him. He went invisible again, and I can't sense his aura at all. Actually, I can't feel any of your auras either. What the hell? You aren't the only one, Kate says. I've completely lost my magical sense as well. Could this have anything to do with the fog? No, Aluna says. This is a shaman ritual. Basically, it's a very advanced mind-affecting spell. We're not in the real world anymore, and thus there are different rules. We're not missing only your magical senses, but also our magical powers. You were already wearing collars, so you can't tell the difference, but Uraka and I cannot cast any spells at this moment. Also, it would appear that ranged weapons are not allowed either since Barry's crossbow is gone. I think magical items are still functional though, since the shaman must have used his staff in order to turn invisible. Alright, I'm really tired. This has been a 6.5-hour stream now, so I'm going to call it here since it's sort of a good breaking point, moving on into another section. So I'm going to do the thing. Are we still in chapter 10? Yeah, chapter 10. Okay, cool. And then, because it keeps messing up, transfer achievements to the cloud. Transfer local saves to the cloud. Transfer checkpoint to the cloud. Save slot 1, save slot 2, transfer. Okay. Transfer 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm pretty sure there's only 6, but okay. Back to cloud menu, back, save, load. Okay. Alright, let's see if I missed anything from the chat while I was doing that. Erica has been helpful, yeah. Alright, Misfit, I can send you I'll message you on Discord once I log off. Good night, Imperpink Lizard. Thank you so much for hanging out as long as you did. Love you too. Jimmy Dings, Marshmang, thank you guys so much for hanging out and appreciating the stream. Appreciate all of you guys. And yeah, so I hope that everyone, I hope that everyone has a really good rest of your day or night or whatever it is, wherever you are. I am planning on streaming tomorrow. I'll be attempting to continue Portal. I have new motion sickness stuff, so it should go okay. And then I'll probably do Jackbox or continue Magium or both afterwards. Alright, so have a good night, everyone. I appreciate and love all of you guys. You're wonderful. Bye.